So at this time, I will hereby call the Building Corporation for Richland Bean Blossom School Corporation to order and turn it over to Jacob McClellan.
Yeah, guys, Jacob McClellan with Bose, McKinney, and Evans, kind of going through the similar process that we did last year at this time. But the one thing on your agenda today is a resolution related to a financing for the school corporation. Same structure as last year, as you'll recall. And I guess stop me if you guys have any questions, and I'm happy to answer anything kind of as we go. But the school corporation can borrow, directly. They can issue bonds directly in the open market. But in Indiana, there are debt limit issues. You're limited to 2% of 1/3 of your assessed value. And so often school corporations and other municipal entities will borrow through a building corporation. And that's what you guys are. You guys are the board of the building corporation. The building corporation exists really mainly on paper. You guys don't, everything kind of gets pushed off to the school to do. There's no ongoing paperwork. You just meet, as needed for financings for the school. So the current financing is projected to be around $7 million. There's two projects. One of the projects is hang on here, get my notes out. The Operational Administration Facilities Project, and that is construction and equipping of improvements and additions to certain school corporation facilities, including but not limited to acquiring, constructing, and equipping a new administration/community building, improvements, upgrades, and renovations to the school corporation's existing maintenance and transportation building, acquiring, constructing, and equipping a new storage building, construction and improvements to sidewalks, including the construction of sidewalks from Edgewood Junior High to Edgewood High School and out to State Road 46 and other related renovations. The other project is a project at the high school, and it'll include, but not be limited to, pool upgrades and improvements, acquiring, constructing, and equipping a new innovative learning center at the high school, locker and weight room upgrades and improvements and renovation, and other related improvements and renovation. And those lists are kind of a laundry list. If one of them is more expensive, if one part of the project is really expensive, but that's the project you want to do, including the others in the description, really just for notice purposes, and it allows you the flexibility to do those. But there's nothing that locks you into doing all of those projects. I think Jerry has included, Jerry, Paul, and Matt have included kind of some projects, a list of projects to make sure that all the funds for the bond could be used. But to get back to the resolution authorizes the execution of a supplement to the lease amendment. The lease that the amendment that you guys would be entering into relates to the lease from last year. And that is how you get around statutorily for debt limit purposes, the debt limit issues. The school corporation transfers title to whatever they're going to improve with the proceeds of the bonds to you guys. You guys hold it, just on paper, and lease it back to the school. The lease payments get made from the school to the building corporation, and they get assigned over to the bond trustee. So we're proceeding under the trust indenture and the lease that you guys entered into last year. And that included most of the high school building. And then Christine's working on the property transfer. It'll include kind of the property right around the current administration building, where most of the projects for the administration project will take place. So the resolution authorizes that amendment to the lease. It authorizes the projects. It authorizes the transfer, the purchase of property to the extent it's necessary. And it preliminarily authorizes the issuance of bonds for the benefit of the school corporation. As far as timing, after this meeting, the school board meeting will happen. They've got their 1028 hearings and their lease hearings. assuming everybody approves the solutions, you guys have already executed the lease, kind of given the services. So after this, tomorrow we'll send a notice to the newspapers of the execution of the lease. And then Stiefel will proceed with beginning the process to market the bonds. There's a 30-day notice, 30-day objection period following the execution of the lease. Once that passes, we'll proceed with kind of finalizing the sale of the bonds. Pricing, is anticipated to take place in early June, closing kind of mid to late June. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you guys may have.
I have none.
I have none.
I have
Okay.
none.
And I guess process-wise, it'll be like last time. Once we price the bonds, I'll have a packet that I'll route through Christine, and it'll have signature pages and it'll have everything tabbed up. And to the extent you guys want, I think I have some of your email addresses, but if you want to give Jerry or Christine your emails, in case I don't have them, I'm happy to send you guys red lines as this progresses, and you want to see the sale results and all that good stuff. So, I mean, with that, I guess if you guys want to proceed, then the next step would be to entertain a motion to adopt the resolution.
I'll make the motion to adopt that resolution.
I'll second.
You guys take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I think technically we're supposed to go by name since we're doing it electronically. So Jerry,
Jerry Cravens, aye.
Kenny,
Aye.
Randall.
Aye.
All right. Resolution passes. Jerry, I don't know if there was anything else on the building corporation's agenda. I don't think there was. Am I correct?
Not unless anybody had any questions for Christine or Matt Shoemaker. Matt Shoemaker with Stiefel is on, so if anybody has any questions, they're available.
I'm good.
Yeah, I read all the documents. So I'm good.
I think I'm good also.
Okay. Do you guys
Okay.
want to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll
Yeah,
make a
I'll
motion to
make-
adjourn.
I second that motion.
Call for the
Jerry,
question.
you take a vote. Jerry,
Jerry Cravens, yes.
Kenny,
Yes.
Randall.
Yes.
All right. Meeting's adjourned. Thanks, guys.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
The
Thanks a
school
lot.
board meeting will start in about 22 minutes.
I'll call this meeting of the April 20th to 14th Richland Bean Boston Community School Corporation Board meeting together. We will pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
For all.
very much. For the roll call, when I call your name, state if you're present.
Sorry about that. Can you all hear me better now?
There you go.
Okay. All right. For roll call, Jimmy Durnall,
Here.
Angie James,
Here.
Deborah Mary, Brad Tucker,
Here.
and I'm Dana Kerr. So all board members are present and accounted for.
If I could break in here, just remind everybody that when you're not talking, to mute yourself.
All right, so our next item on the agenda is visitor comments. Are there any visitors on the conference call who would like to address the board? If so, please state your name and let us know what you have to say. Okay, hearing none, we'll move forward. Our next item is a consent agenda, and it will include the following items. Approval of minutes for the March 23rd, 2020 regular school board meeting. the treasurer's report for March of 2020, the claims, which include $1,190,092.35 of total gross wages from 3/13 and 3/27, and total vouchers of $1,172,850.90 for total vouchers and payroll of $2,362,943.25. Also on the consent agenda is a consideration of donations. We have quite a lot this month, which is awesome. We have 500 cloth bags from the Ellisville branch of the Monroe County Public Library. We have 300 cloth bags from the IU Health Goal Program. We have 500 plastic bags from Anthem. We have 2,000 plastic bags from Kroger, 300 plastic bags from Target, 1 case of quart-size food containers from Lisa Land, 1 case of Ziploc baggies from Deborah Mary, $20 from Jean Graham for milk, plus a gallon of milk, 20 cloth masks for frontline staff made by Jill Ferguson, 150 boxes of cookies from the Girl Scouts. Papa John's, Wee Willie's, Domino's, Chicago Pizza, and IGA have all donated food for the kitchen workers. Boys and Girls Club for 500 McDonald's free meal cards, $20 for gallons of milk, 100 Little Debbie snack cakes from an anonymous donor, 700 baggies from Danielle Butler's and Carrie Robbins' classroom, and $150 from Tri Kappa of Ellisville for the Student Assistance Fund. Also, we have personnel, D 1 through 3 of personnel resignations, retirements, non-renewals, leaves, and terminations, and E personnel appointments and transfers 1 through 10. And yes, so that is the contents of the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
I move approval.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay,
Yep. Mr. Durnall, I'm sorry.
yeah. Thank you for stating your name. Thank you. Okay, so the motion has been made and is on the table. Is there any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, I'll do this by roll call and just simply, do you agree or not with the vote? Jimmy Durnall,
Aye.
Angie Jacobs,
Yes.
Deborah Mary,
Yes.
Bradley Tucker, Mr.
He's
Tucker.
muted. He's got his,
Yes.
Thank you. And Mr. is a yes as well. So the consent agenda passes 5-0. Okay, the next item is the business manager's report. So I'll turn that over to Pat Irwin.
All right, hopefully you guys can all hear me all right. Board members, I know Jerry had sent you all the cash flow charts that you normally see on a normal month. So we'll talk through those a little bit here real quick. Education fund, things are still on track after March, still showing growth in the fund balance and education, which is right where we want to be with things, obviously with all the uncertainty of things that are going on with all these crazy times of which we're doing a Zoom meeting right now. So things are staying on track there. In operations, we're showing some more of the same stability in the end of the year fund balance as we have in the previous 2 months. And obviously that's a good thing. I did want to point out something quick to you guys that you're going to notice for property taxes. You saw, if you look at that we split that out. We're anticipating possibly receiving less than full distribution of property taxes in June due to the ability for people to delay that property tax payment without penalty. We've been in contact with the Indiana Bond Bank to discuss steps that would be necessary to possibly do a tax anticipation warrant if the need would arise for cash flow purposes. so that we're able to make payments and debt service and continue to make cash flow and obviously payroll and all of that good stuff. We're monitoring that closely, and we'll ask you at the next board meeting to pursue that if we think it's necessary for cash flow purposes. We just continue to look at that and are trying to make some projections, trying to wait as much as we can to get information from the county auditor office as far as what she knows about what our collection is going to be. I've had various conversations there, just try to stay in touch and kind of see what that's going to be for us. It's pretty common practice for many school districts to have to do the bond bank for cash flow purposes, and especially now with everything that's going on with the coronavirus, and many schools worried that's going to be a big delay in those payments, especially when you look at how their tax base might be set up so that they can meet their obligations. So the bond bank, if you don't know what they are, they're an agency that's for governmental agencies that function to help keep them going for cash flow purposes when the need arises, and they've been in practice for over 30 years. And like I said, for debt service, and when you look at that sheet, we kind of projected that out again, and that we might receive a little bit less than what our normal distribution is there. So we're keeping a close eye on that to make sure that we're in good shape moving forward, and we'll continue to monitor and make sure that we update you at the next board meeting if we think that's necessary. We've already got the timeline stuff put in place and have reached out to them to see what all that would be, so that we're in the right place to do that if need be. All in all, though, we're in good shape right now. And so it's good that we're continuing to see the steadiness in those fund balances for projections for the end of the year. And it's obviously it's crazy times like these are part of the reason why we said we want to continue to build fund balances to a healthy level, so that when there's uncertain times, that we know that we're in great shape to withstand those and take care of our people. So that's what I have for you on the business manager's report for tonight.
Okay, thank you very much. Sorry, I had to switch back. I had those brought up on my screen. Are there any questions for Matt? Hearing none, we'll move forward. Thank you very much, Matt. And you guys are doing a great job of keeping us on track. Okay, these next series of hearings we will have are related to the 2020 building project bond documentations. And so the first order, I will bring the 1028 hearing on the high school project to order. And I will turn it over to Jacob McClellan, our bond counsel, for the project description and cost.
Sure. Hey, Dean, if it makes sense, maybe I'll just talk generally an overall process for the 4 hearings. That way we kind of have the background and then go into the specifics for the high school project. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for having me. Jacob with Bose, McKinney & Evans. We're serving as bond counsel. The public hearings and resolutions are a step in the authorizing process for the issuance of bonds for the school corporation. It's very similar to what we've done the last few years. Tonight, there'll be 4 separate hearings, 4 separate resolutions. There's 1028 hearings. There's 2 projects, so 1 for each project, 2 lease hearings, 1 for each project. For the 1028 hearings, we do those. They're statutorily required when a project will cost over $1 million. And it's really to have a public hearing and get to the necessity and the value of a project to the school. The lease hearings statutorily are required. You'll recall that you guys have, and this structure for this bond will be to issue a bond through the building corporation. You guys will enter into a lease of the project to be financed, and the lease payments will line up with the payments on the bonds. And so the lease hearings are to get to whether, statutorily the rental to be paid is necessary and wise, and whether the entry into the lease amendments are appropriate. So again, there's 2 projects, the high school project and the operational and administrative facilities project. We can discuss each as we go into each hearing. And just as far as the timing, the building corporation approved for this meeting, assuming you guys approve all of these resolutions, tomorrow we'll send a notice of execution of a lease amendment to the local papers. That starts a 30-day objection period. Stiefel will begin the marketing process for the bonds. By mid-May, all the documents, all the offering documents should be pretty finalized. We'll be back at your meeting in May for a final bond resolution. The lease objection period would end then toward the end of May, depending on when the paper publishes. We would anticipate a bond sale around June 9th or 10th with a closing around June 23rd. Of course, that's subject to market conditions, and Stiefel, I'm sure, will keep you guys all in the loop on how that progresses. But to go back to the hearing, the first thing, this is a 1028 hearing for the high school project. The high school project includes the equipping of improvements and additions to Edgewood High School, including but not limited to pool upgrades, improvements, and renovations at Edgewood High School, acquiring, constructing, and equipping a new innovative learning center at Edgewood High School, locker, weight room upgrades, and improvements and renovations at Edgewood High School, and other related renovations, improvements, and upgrades. In the resolutions, when you guys consider those, I think we've included a not to exceed of $4 million, but I think the project cost is anticipated to be about $3,211,375. And with that, I'll turn it over to Jerry to discuss the need with respect to each of the projects, to the high school project.
Okay, the high school project will serve to increase learning by providing an improved educational environment for students of the Richland Bean Blossom Community School Corporation in the following ways: improving student safety, increasing student pride, and increasing student engagement. In regard to the pool upgrade, locker room, weight room renovations, our pool is in constant use by the students and the community. The renovations will address safety issues such as loose tiles, rusted doors, outdated pump, addressing new standards for the pool's diving area, and more, in order to improve the safety of students and the public using the pool. Improvements to the locker room and weight room, in regard to that, would be the shower area, flooring, lockers, and more will also improve safety for student athletes. Students feeling pride in a newly renovated pool, locker rooms, and weight rooms will inspire students to be more engaged academically and athletically. For the Innovative Learning Center, RBB has been involved in the ROI Ready Schools planning initiative throughout the school year. The Innovative Learning Center will provide students with expanded opportunities to explore careers and prepare for tomorrow's workforce. The activities and opportunities that will take place in the Innovative Learning Center will increase the pride students have about going to school in a corporation committed to preparing them for success after high school. The ultimate goal of RBB's ROI Ready Schools initiative is to engage students in opportunities and activities of career exploration and preparation for tomorrow's workforce. The Innovative Learning Center is a critical component to achieving this goal. The high school project addresses all three of the elements needed to sustain an effective and positive educational environment. And at this time, I'll turn it over to Matt Shoemaker with Stiefel.
Thank you, Jerry. And I am going to talk about the financial impact. I have a presentation. If you give me a minute, I will share my screen. Everyone see that okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, I am Matt Shoemaker, and I do appreciate you all having me again this month. You may remember I was with you all about a month ago to walk through this presentation, so I'm going to do it again. I will be brief, but if there are any questions or comments, please do feel free to stop me in the middle of it. So when looking at projects, the first thing that we always look at is what is the school's outstanding debt service payments, along with the projected tax rate. So here we go back to 2019. We break it out by the outstanding bond issue of the school corporation. You can see from 19 to 20, the debt service did increase a little bit along with the tax rate. And then in 21, we're expecting the debt payments to drop slightly. You will see that the debt payments drop slightly while the tax rate does increase, the tax rate being illustrated by the green line graph. This is still a result of what happened in 2018 playing out. So this should be the last year, 2021, that anything is impacted. But I did want to highlight that even though the payments are technically going down due to a function of 2018, we'll see the tax rate increase approximately 10 cents. And I'll talk a little bit in a minute that we're still confident that we can get the repayment from the 2020 bonds, have a payment in 2021 without really impacting your tax rate. And again, I'll talk through that, but I did want to point out that you're looking at a 10-cent increase, even if you did not do anything due to 2018 still resolving itself. So after that, you can track your tax rate. You see you're going to be in a good position moving forward. There will be more capacity in the future, if warranted, to do additional projects without increasing the tax rate. So from the beginning, when we started talking to Dr. Sanders and his team in Dana, they specifically mentioned that they wanted to return to the rate that the school corporation had in 2017, and that was to keep the overall tax rate to $1.12. So all of the structuring that we have done with regards to the 2020 bonds and any future bonds is always being mindful of that $1.12. We want to make sure that the school corporation can return to that level without exceeding that level, if at all possible. So the green bar graph here on top of your outstanding debt would be the payments, the proposed payments from the 2020 bonds. And we've structured this based on a $7 million bond issue. And here you can see that the tax rate doesn't really change from what I showed you on the previous page in 2021. And then in 2022 is when we start seeing the result of the payments coming on. And so we've kept the tax rate steady from 2021 to 2022, and then dropped pretty significantly in 2023. That would give the school corporation added capacity to come back and do a future project if the administration and board chooses to do so, again, being mindful of the $1.12 based on what the rate was back in 2017. So you can track your rate all the way out through 2039. But this is a chart that looks very good for a school corporation that is looking to do some projects in the future. This page tracks the overall tax rate. Debt service is just one component of the school's tax rate. We do need to look at the operations fund rate as well. So this brings in both the debt service and the operations fund rate, again, to look at the overall tax rate. And here again, we've shown in 2021 and 2022, the school corporation will be at or below that $1.12 based on the information that we know today, with a drop in 2023 and another out in 2028. In terms of the parameters in the resolutions and what we're expecting from the bond issue, there's a max par amount of $7 million. The estimated cost of issuance and underwriter's discounts, all of the professional fees is estimated at $285,000. I do expect that number to be high, but we always like to stay conservative at the beginning. That would leave $6,715,000 available for hard and soft project costs. We are estimating a lease payment for a 20-year repayment of the bonds at $580,000. However, the max lease payment is being set at $1.1 million. We see this all the time, and this is something that we recommend to our school clients, is to set the max lease payment significantly higher than what they think they will need, purely for flexibility down the road. If for some reason there's room to have a higher payment, there would be flexibility built into the parameters to allow the school corporation to do that. Just because you set a max lease payment at 1.1 million does not mean you need to use all of it. And here you can see the school corporation is roughly going to utilize about half of that. But I did want to point that out. Estimated interest expense of about 3.4 million. The estimated maximum tax rate impact is strictly a formula. You take the max lease payment, you divide it by the assessed value of the school corporation currently, and that's where the 12.24 cents is coming from. The estimated net increase from this bond issue is going to be about a half a penny. That's there in the bottom line of the 0.004. If you go back to the first page where I mentioned because of how the tax rate is going to resolve itself in 2021, school corporation is going to see about a 10-cent increase anyways. We're able to structure this bond issue in 2021, and through the budgeting mechanics can make sure that there's not really an impact from this bond issue whatsoever out in 2021. So a little bit less than a half a penny being impacted because of this bond issue. I will stop there. Again, happy to answer any questions or go back to mention something maybe I talked about earlier that I didn't quite make sense, but happy to field any questions the group may have.
Okay, I did. Okay, first, I just want to make sure that I don't think we can say it enough about the school board in 2017 made a commitment to the taxpayers of RBB that we were going to maintain a level tax rate, that we wanted to do projects that would be good for the school and the community, but we wanted to keep the tax rate level. That was 2017, and in 2018, there was an error in the amount of taxes collected, and more taxes were collected than were needed. And so the tax rate did go up that year because of the error. Well, in 2019, the tax rate went down to compensate for having gone up in 18. And so in 19 and 20 kind of shared that, as well as a change in the law on the percentage of debt service payments that you could carry over from year to year. So this project is keeping up with what the board had promised, keeping the 2017 tax rate. The tax rate for 2021 would be consistent with that. So I just wanted to make sure that was brought out. At this point, I would like to ask the board if any board members have any questions. Okay,
Mr. Durnall's good.
Okay, hearing none, it is now the point in the 1028 hearing where we open up for the public to have an opportunity to ask questions or make comments. There has been a conference call that has been set up to handle that. And so I'll ask if there are any citizens on the conference call who would like to comment on the 1028 hearing for the high school projects. Okay, hearing none, this shall close the 1028 hearing on the high school projects. And we will now look at the resolution, the 1028 resolution with respect to the high school projects. And I'll turn it back over to Jacob McClellan, Bond Counsel.
Thank you. Yeah, so the resolution essentially it approves the project. It makes findings that a need exists for the expenditure of the funds for the project. It makes the finding that the project will serve better educational opportunities for the students of the school corp. It goes through the estimated tax impact. Of course, that's a not to exceed in the resolution. It generally approves the form of the lease amendment, and it includes a reimbursement provision. So if we were to back up on our bond issuance, but you guys wanted to start spending funds, we would preserve our ability to, once the bond is issued, have the school reimburse itself for those costs. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, so at this time, I am requesting board approval of the 1028 resolution for a high school project.
Do we have a motion from the board?
Mr. Dern will move approval.
Mr. Tucker will second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none. Those in favor, Mr. Durnall,
Yes.
Mrs. Jacobs,
Yes.
Mrs. Mary, Mrs. Mary, we must have lost Mrs. Mary. Mr. Tucker?
Yes.
And Mr. Kerr is a yes as well. Mrs. Mary, are you on?
I text her.
Yes.
Okay. All right, we're at the 1028 resolution. There's been a motion and a second to approve it for the high school project. Are you a yes or a no? Which,
Deborah,
Yes.
is that a yes vote or yes, you can hear us?
Yes, I can hear everything. I'm not getting through when I talk.
okay.
I said yes. I vote yes.
All right, thank you very much. So the 1028 resolution with respect to the high school project is approved 5-0. And now I would like to open the 1028 hearing on the operational and administrative project. So that hearing, 1028 hearing on the operational and administrative facilities project is hereby open. And I will turn it back over to Jacob McClellan, Bond Counsel.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, the resolution on this will go to the need for the expenditure of funds for the operational and administration facilities project. That project includes the construction and equipping of improvements, including acquiring, constructing, and equipping a new administration/community building, improvements, upgrades, and renovations to the school corporation's existing maintenance and transportation building, acquiring, constructing, and equipping a new storage building, construction and improvements to sidewalks of the school corporation, including the construction of sidewalks from Edgewood Junior High to Edgewood High School and out to State Road 46, and other related renovations, improvements, and upgrades. I think we've included a $4 million not to exceed amount, but the project cost is actually estimated at $3,788,625. And with that, I'll turn it over to Jerry to discuss the need for the project.
The operational administration facilities project will serve to increase learning by providing an improved educational environment for students of the Richland Bean Blossom Community School Corporation in the following ways: improving student safety, increasing student pride, and increasing student engagement. In terms of sidewalks from the Edgewood Junior High School to Edgewood High School to State Route 46, providing a designated place for students to walk obviously improves student safety and creates an improved educational environment. Students feeling proud about new sidewalks designed for their safety will inspire students to be more engaged academically and athletically. In regard to the new administration community building, our current administration office is not conducive to doing business efficiently. A new administration office will be designed for the purpose of doing business better. The more efficient and more productive our school corporation is in the way we do business, the more financial resources we can pour into creating a safe and secure learning environment. A new administration office will increase security for staff and important documents that we handle. The new administration office will include a new board and community room. Our business offices will be more secure during board meetings and other community events. Our current administration offices create a bad first impression for parents in the community. The public is often confused when where to go and who to talk to when they enter our current administration office. The new administration office will create a designated reception area to direct visitors to the appropriate office. A new administration office will build public confidence in our school corporation that will influence students to have greater pride in their learning environment, leading to an increase in student engagement. Renovations to RBB's existing maintenance and transportation building. Renovating the existing maintenance and transportation building will enable RBB to make our school buses and our maintenance equipment more secure, resulting in improving the safety of students and staff. Renovating the existing maintenance and transportation building will provide bus drivers and maintenance staff with a safer traffic pattern. Renovating the existing maintenance and transportation building will enable RBB to provide an improved workplace for the transportation and maintenance departments. This support will enhance the work of our bus drivers and maintenance staff, leading towards a greater pride and increased engagement of our students. Finally, a new storage building. Building a new storage building will enable students, parents, and staff to be good caretakers of resources needed to support show choirs, drama, band, and other student activities by providing a safe and secure place to store these resources. Students will have greater pride and engagement if they know that the equipment they need to be successful in their extracurricular activities is secured in a quality storage building. The operational administration facilities project addresses all three of the elements needed to sustain an effective and positive educational environment.
So at this time, for a discussion of the financing of the project and tax impact of the project, I'll turn it back over to Matt Shoemaker of Stiefel.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I should have mentioned in my presentation that we looked at the projects on a combined basis. So the charts, graphs, and numbers that were illustrated during my previous discussion would be for both. So I do not have anything to add to this project, but happy to entertain any questions that the group has.
Okay, thank you very much. This is also now we come to the time for public to either question or make comments regarding the projects. Again, we have a conference call line available for that. So I'll ask if there's anyone on the conference call line who would like to make a comment or have questions regarding this project. Okay, hearing none, we will now close the hearing, 1028 hearing for the administration and operations project. And so now we'll look at the 1028 resolution with respect to their operational and administration project, and I'll turn it back over to Bond Counsel Jacob McClellan.
Thanks, Mr. President. This makes the same findings as the resolution for the prior project, but with respect to the operational and administration facilities project. It makes a finding as to the need for the expenditure of funds for the project. It makes a finding that the project will provide better educational opportunities for students of the school corporation. Again, it goes through the tax impact with a not to exceed of $4 million. It approves the amendment to the lease and includes a reimbursement provision. With that, I'd be happy to answer any of the questions. Otherwise, I could turn it back over to Superintendent Sanders.
Okay, at this time, I am requesting approval of the 1028 resolution for the operational administration project.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Mr. Durnall, move approval.
Okay. The motion was made by Mr. Durnall and seconded by Mrs. Mary. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, I'll go for the call for the vote. So yay or nay, Mr. Durnall,
Aye.
Mrs. Jacobs,
Yes.
Mrs. Mary,
Yes.
Mr. Tucker,
Yes.
and Mr. Kerr is a yes as well. So the 1028 resolution with respect to the operational and administrative project passes 5-0. And now we have the lease hearing. So I will officially open the hearing on the high school lease. And I will turn that over to Bond Counsel Jacob McClellan.
Sorry, I was muted there. Thank you, Mr. President. Going to go through this. Again, the difference here with the 1028 hearings and the lease hearings is we're getting to, and for purposes of the public, whether the lease rental is necessary and wise, and whether entering into the lease amendment is necessary. So that's what the resolution will go to. And this is for the high school project. So again, the high school project includes pool upgrades, improvements, and renovations at Edgewood High School, acquiring, constructing, and equipping a new innovative learning center at Edgewood High School, locker and weight room upgrades, improvements and renovations at Edgewood High School, and other related renovations, improvements, and upgrades. With that, I will turn it over to Superintendent Sanders to discuss the need for the project.
I'm not going to go into great detail and repeat myself, but the high school project will serve to increase learning by improving, providing an improved educational environment for students in the Richland Bean Blossom Community School Corporation in the following ways: improving student safety, increasing student pride, and increasing student engagement, as I described in the 828 or 1028 hearing.
And with that, I'll discuss the necessity of the lease amendment. So, and whether the lease rental is fair and reasonable. So the lease amendment, again, the lease is part of the structure here, the overall structure for the financing issued through the building corporation. So in order to do the project or to finance the project, we need the lease amendment. And then whether the rental to be paid is fair and reasonable. The lease rentals will be structured to make payment on the amount that you borrow, so they're directly tied to the amount of the bond. So there's no additional lease rental other than what's represented in what's needed to make the debt service on the bonds. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Matt. I don't know, Matt, if you have much to add. It's probably similar to what you've already discussed, but go ahead.
Yeah, again, I think this presentation spoke to all of the financial parameters and impact to the school. Really nothing to add, but again, happy to answer questions.
Okay, so this is now the time that we have for the opportunity for questions and comments from the public. Again, we do have a conference call set up for this, and it was advertised. So do we have any questions or comments from the public? IT director says no. So this will close the hearing on the high school lease. And now we will look at the resolution related to the execution of the lease amendment related to the high school project. And I'll turn it back over to Jacob.
Thank you, Mr. President. So the resolution authorizes the amendment to the lease. It goes through that we've sent the notices in accordance with the statute. And it makes the finding that the rental will be fair and reasonable for the project, and authorizes the execution of the First Amendment to lease. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
At this time, I am requesting the approval of the resolution related to the execution of the lease amendment for the high school project.
Okay. So we have a motion.
This is AJ. I move approval.
This is Brett. I second it.
All right. Been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, please denote your vote by roll call. Mr. Durnall? Mr. Durnall?
I'm sorry. Yes, I thought I had unmuted. I'm in favor of it. Yes.
Mrs. Jacobs?
Yes.
Mrs. Mary? Mrs. Mary?
Yes.
Mr. Tucker?
Yes.
And Mr. Kerr is yes as well. So the lease amendment has passed 5-0. So now we will move on to the lease hearing, and I'll officially open the lease hearing with respect to the operational and administration project, and again, turn it over to Jacob.
So again, same process as on the other project, but specific to the operational and administration project, which includes acquiring, constructing, and equipping a new administration / community building, improvements, upgrades, and renovations to the school corporation's existing maintenance and transportation building, acquiring, constructing a new storage building, construction and improvements to sidewalks, including the construction of sidewalks from Edgewood Junior High to the high school and out to State Road 46, and other related renovations, improvements, and upgrades. And again, this goes to the lease, which you enter into with the building corporation, which payments on there line up with your debt service payments. So with that, Jerry, I'll turn it over to you to discuss the needs.
Okay. The operational administration facilities project will serve once again to increase learning by providing an improved educational environment for the students of the Richland Bean Blossom Community School Corporation in the following ways: improving student safety, increasing student pride, increasing student engagement for each of the projects as I described in the 1028 hearing.
So then, as far as the necessity of the lease amendment and whether the rental is to be paid is fair and reasonable, similar to the last hearing, it's necessary in as much as it's needed for the structure through the building corporation. And again, the rental paid will be directly tied to the debt service based on the size of the bonds. So with that, Matt, I don't know if you have anything to add.
Nope, nothing on my end, Jacob.
Okay, now on this lease hearing, we now open it up to for an opportunity for questions and comments from the public. And again, our technology director says that there's no one to provide questions or comments. So this will officially close the hearing on the operational and administration project lease. And now we'll turn to the resolution related to the execution of the lease amendment related to the operational and administration project. Mr. McClellan.
So thank you, Mr. President. Again, it authorizes the amendment to the lease tied to the project and to the issuance of bonds for the project. It authorizes the execution and authorizes the notice that'll be sent following execution of the lease. I'd be happy to answer any other questions.
So at this time, I'm requesting approval of the resolution related to the execution of the lease amendment for the project, for the operational and administration project.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move approval. Mr. Durnall.
I'll second Angie.
Been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none. Yea or nay by roll call. Mr. Durnall,
Aye.
Mrs. Jacobs,
Yes.
Mrs. Mary, Mr. Tucker,
Yes.
and Mr. Kerr is yes as well. So the resolution passes 5-0. Really want to say thank you to Jacob McClellan, our bond counsel, and to Matt Shoemaker from Steeple for being here for these hearings. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
Yes, I also appreciate all of your hard work. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is consideration to approve an amendment, section 125 flexible benefit plan. Dr. Sanders.
I'll turn this over to Matt.
Yeah, so this amendment for the Section 125 plan is something that's needed due to the CARES Act. The amendment allows individuals to use their Section 125 plan benefits for purchases that were not previously included as medical care for purposes of reimbursement for tax-free distribution. So that just kind of opens up those allowable expenses. So as of April 15th, individuals can submit claims now for those types of expenses that occurred after December 31st of 2019. So hopefully this will be a benefit to our people that have those Section 125 benefit plans. So I hope that you guys will make the recommendation to approve.
All right. Do we have a motion?
Make a motion to approve. It's Brad Tucker.
I will second Angie Jacobs.
Moved and seconded. Any questions or comments on the benefit plan amendment? Hearing none by roll call. Mr. Durnall,
Aye.
Mrs. Jacobs,
Yes.
Mrs. Mary,
Yes.
Mr. Tucker,
Yes.
and Mr. Kerr is yes as well. So the amendment passes 5-0. Now we have consideration to approve the amendment with the trustees of Indiana University Research Service Agreement. Dr. Sanders?
Yes. So last November, the board was given the good news that IU School of Psychology and RBB had successfully collaborated on a 5-year, $2.5 million grant. We were asking the board to approve an amendment to that grant agreement. The amendment adjusts the amount of grant funds that are specifically allocated to IU as a subcontractor. The original agreement included grant funds that were not supposed to be earmarked for IU. The amount allocated to IU is now correct with the approval of the amendment.
Yeah, I'll entertain a motion on the amendment.
I'd move approval. Mr. Durnall.
Deborah, I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions, comments? Hearing none by roll call. Mr. Durnall,
Aye.
Mrs. Jacobs,
Yes.
Mrs. Mary,
Yes.
Mr. Tucker,
Yes.
and Mr. Kerr is an aye as well. And so the amendment passes 5-0. Our next item is consideration to approve agreements with VPS Architecture. Dr. Sanders.
Yes, both agreements, we're having two agreements that the board is approving. One covers the 2019 bond projects, and the agreement would pay VPS Architecture $507,000 for their services. The second agreement, it will cover the 2020 bond projects, and for the architecture services, the agreement will pay VPS $438,000 $750. We conducted a Zoom meeting with VPS Architect and specifically George Link to review both agreements. Both agreements have also been approved by Ferguson Law, so we recommend your approval.
Okay, do we have a motion for approval of both agreements with VPS Architecture?
This is Angie. I move approval.
This is Jimmy. I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments on the agreements with VPS Architecture? And Mr. George Link is available, the architect is available if you have questions.
Dana, can you hear me? Dana,
Yes,
can you hear me okay?
yes, I can hear you.
This is Brad Tucker. I just want to thank Mr. Link for the Zoom conference this morning with Dr. Sanders and Matt and yourself. That was very helpful for me to understand the process a little bit better. And I appreciate your sharing an hour with me this morning. So thank you.
Anytime.
Okay. I was in on the Zoom meeting as well, and it was very informative, and that meeting was sent out to the rest of the board, so all the rest of the board could hear the same thing that was said there. So is there any further questions or comments? Hearing none, by roll call vote, Mr. Durnall?
Aye.
Mrs. Jacobs?
Yes.
Mrs. Mary?
Yes.
Mr. Tucker?
Yes.
And Mr. Kerr is an aye as well. So the VPS architectural agreements, both are approved 5-0. Now we move to consideration to approve a memorandum of understanding with Food Research and Action Center. I'll turn it over to Dr. Sanders.
Sure. RBB received a grant from the Food Research and Action Center for $8,000. Nutrition Services will use those funds to purchase an after the bell cart as well as signage for the vending machine promoting school breakfast. The grant will also help to fund a portable point of sale system for the breakfast cart. RBB CSC will continue to provide free breakfast next year for all RBB students, focusing on increasing breakfast participation at Edgewood Junior High School. Many of our students are often not ready to eat breakfast first thing in the morning, so we are confident that providing students with breakfast after the bell will increase the number of students eating healthy meals.
I'd entertain a motion for approval of the memorandum of understanding.
It's Angie. I move approval.
This is Brad. I second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, I did see where our current, I can't remember the numbers exactly, but there's about 140 students that participate in breakfast at the junior high, and they're hoping to get up close to 300 participating. So that's awesome. Be sure to keep their energy level high during the academic day. Okay, so by roll call vote, Mr. Durnall?
Aye.
Mrs. Jacobs?
Yes.
Mrs. Mary?
Yes.
Mr. Tucker?
Yes.
And Mr. Kerr is a yes as well. So the memorandum of understanding passes 5-0. Now we have consideration to approve a salary increase for our Director of Transportation, Dr. Sanders.
Sure. Thank you. I'm recommending that our Director of Transportation, Audrey Myers, receive a salary increase of $2,500 retroactive back to July 5th, 2019. This raise is consistent with the raise given to other directors in the month of February. Audrey's new salary will be $49,930. She has been a real team player with helping out with the Healthy Meals Plan during our coronavirus crisis. Audrey has been working hard with our business manager to identify savings in the transportation department and essentially the school corporation. Audrey is a great leader for her drivers. I've noticed a lot of respect from her drivers, and I appreciate that. So I recommend your approval.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Jimmy, I'll move approval.
Deborah, I second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions or comments? We appreciate Audrey Myers, all of her hard work and dedication to the school corporation. So by roll call vote, Mr. Durnall,
Aye.
Mrs. Jacobs,
Yes.
Mrs. Mary,
Yes.
Mr. Tucker,
Yes.
and Mr. Kerr is an aye as well. So the motion passes 5-0. And now we have consideration to approve a resolution allowing an amendment for our contracted bus routes. Dr. Sanders.
Actually, I'd like to turn this over to Matt. He's been working on this and I'd like to let him share with the board where we've been and where we're going.
Yeah, so again, hopefully you guys can hear me all right. And just ask for your permission to pass this resolution that allows us to make amendments to payment during times like this for our contracted bus routes, and to also give permission to Dr. Sanders or his designee to negotiate further amendment for times such as this during the duration of the contract. Really, the big part of this is trying to find something that not only is in the best interest of the school corporation, but also protects our contracted bus owners and the people that they employ, to make sure that they still are able to make their payments and keep their regular pay. So right now, the big gist of it is just talking about fuel costs. And so the buses aren't running, the wear and tear is not there on the buses, and some other things. But the big part of it that we wanted to do, like I said, to not only protect the best interest of the school corporation, but protect the drivers and the people they employ, was to go back and look at reductions by fuel costs only, which was something that through the whole process, we've obviously consulted the opinions of others and also relied on our transportation director, who, like Jerry had mentioned before, has a great deal of respect from not only the regular bus drivers here through the school corporation, but the contracted owners themselves have a very high respect for her. And so she's been very helpful in that process of making sure that we can find something that we know that we're doing right by all parties for this amendment. So I ask that you guys pass this resolution.
Do we have a motion?
It's Angie. I move approval.
Okay. Mrs. Mary and Mrs. Jacobs moved and seconded, one or the other. So any questions or comments?
It's Angie. I just have a quick comment. I just wanted to tell Dr. Sanders and Matt that I really appreciate you guys taking the time this morning to talk to a couple of the contractors. I got some feedback this afternoon and they were appreciative of the conversation that you had with them. So I just wanted to make that known. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks, Matt. Gary.
Well, credit goes to Matt. I told him this afternoon, he's really been impressive in a lot of ways. And he really made that a priority. And I think he really relates well to staff across the whole corporation. So I just wanted to give a pat on the back to our business manager.
Thanks, guys. And like I said, I appreciate, Audrey's help and everybody else is kind of going through that process, and the drivers as well, as they're, just being very amicable through that process and talking through things that they knew wouldn't make sense for both sides. So I do appreciate everybody involved. Thank you.
Okay, now for a roll call vote, Mr. Durnall,
Aye.
Mrs. Jacobs,
Yes.
Mrs. Mary,
Yes.
Mr. Tucker,
Yes.
And Mr. Kerr is a yes as well. So the resolution passes 5-0. So now I'll turn it over to Dr. Sanders for the superintendent's report.
I guess you might not be surprised at the topic of my superintendent's report. Wanted to give you an update of where we are with the coronavirus response for the Richland Bean Blossom School Corporation. We submitted, we've had our own contingency learning plan, we've called it, but last week, like all the other corporations in the state of Indiana, we had to submit our continuous learning plan to the state of Indiana, which we did. And that continuous learning plan is on our website for the public to see. But just to give you a little bit of a report on e-learning, it's just incredible. I just keep saying that over and over again. The hard work that our students and parents and our teachers are putting in to making e-learning a success, they just deserve a real pat on the back and some congratulations for all of their efforts. You know, e-learning is not perfect. It will never come close to face-to-face and the magic that our teachers do in the classroom. But if you think about where we've been in just a short time and how quickly our teachers rolled up their sleeves and got to work, and you know, students at the high school are going through their regular school day, giving them structure. We have teachers at the other levels who, from preschool to high school, who are doing Zoom meetings. Just really appreciate that. But, you know, we're also learning a lot about how to do e-learning days. If you think about it, you know, when we started our first e-learning day last year, it was designed to have an e-learning day once or twice every so often, right before spring break, as teachers are usually trying to handle what they normally do in their classroom with students who have their minds on being on vacation. This year, our teachers had to spend that week really getting ready to be out for 2 weeks. No one thought at that time it would be 2 months. So we're learning a lot, and you know, God forbid that we have to do this again next year for a period of time. But if we do, we're doing some things to be ready for that. One of the things I would like the state of Indiana to consider, and I'd like to share this eventually and see what our teachers and principals think, but I think one idea that we could do is maybe stagger our e-learning days. We have, you know, some families who have students at all levels, but they have one device and only so much bandwidth to be able to connect to the internet. And so maybe if we had like Monday, Wednesday, Friday of e-learning for elementary and Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday for high school. I don't know if the state would allow us to do that, but I think that might help parents with all that's on their plates. One of the other things that we're working on is, you know, we have our learning packets are very well, they're quality learning packets that for students who don't have internet connectivity. But I think now's the time to have those discussions on exactly how can we increase connectivity for our students and our families. And so I'm putting together some people that I'd like to begin that discussion with. I've got somebody from Smithville who's been shared that she's willing to help. I'd like to reach out to some of our representatives and senators to see if they would be able to help us, and other providers in the community. Our Director of Technology, Rick Roughton, and Matt Irwin and I had a discussion week or two ago about ways that we could increase connectivity. Who knows where we'll go with that, but I think it's worth the effort. The more kids we can get on the internet for e-learning days, the better off everybody is. Our Healthy Meals Plan is going well. Today's numbers were that we had, we served 425 students for the drive-through at our junior high campus pickup site, and 111 students were served through our food truck. So that's 536 students, and they get enough meals for the week for breakfast and lunch. And so that's 5,360 meals, breakfast and lunch for the week. I think that's pretty amazing. Vicki Coffey and her team, they're just doing an amazing job. We also revised our 2019-2020 school calendar. We had to have 20 instructional days, starting with April, starting with March 20th. No, I'm sorry, April 2nd. Get my months mixed up there. Starting with April 2nd, so that takes us to May 15th is our last e-learning day. All of this information is on our corporation website. The principals and I were in discussions now for planning end of the year activities. We really can't announce anything specific because we need to pay attention to the guidance given to us by the governor, Governor Holcomb, and President Trump and his plan. So we will be ready once it looks like we'll be able to open things up. We'll be ready with a plan to allow students to come in and get their belongings and medication. A plan for students to return their Chromebooks. And the schools are already trying to plan some end of the year virtual celebrations. Mr. Ackerman has been working really hard with students and parents to come up with a way for us to have commencement. We are going to have a virtual commencement on May 30th at 11 a.m. and those plans are being made right now. We also hope to have a live commencement, and the possible dates are June 20th, July 11th, July 25th, and September 6th. Those live commencement dates, all that is to be determined based on what guidelines that we receive from the state of Indiana. We are working on summer school. You know, we would much rather have a face-to-face summer school for our students, but it looks like we'll probably be having to implement a virtual summer school. The state of Indiana has provided us suggestions to just plan on a virtual summer school. So we're doing that, but we're still holding out hopes of maybe getting face-to-face with these students before school starts. Just like parents, our teachers were concerned about missing the instructional time the students are this spring, and so we want to use every resource available to us to try to make up for that lost time. Our teachers and principals are already talking about next school year, and we're planning on having an intensive remediation period for the start of the school year. The principals, we meet once a week, and we talked last week about repurposing current resources and direct them towards trying to get students caught up. And we also will be receiving CARES Act funds that will enable us to add some additional strategic resources. And with all this in mind, to just catch these students up and provide them with an intensive remediation period at the start of the 2021 school year. I too would like to just once again thank all the efforts across the corporation for doing such a great job with during this difficult times. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sanders. Now it's time for our RBBEA, our Teacher Association comments, and we have Mr. Doug Yules.
Hey, thanks for allowing us to jump on here. This has definitely been a unique experience, and Dr. Sanders has made me think about a lot of things going on the last few weeks with all this online teaching. That's the business of our corporations, teaching our kids, and this has definitely been a learning curve, a different curve depending on who you are. But like he said, we've jumped in, rolled our sleeves up. I'm sure it varies to every level, but it's been a challenge, but I think we've taken it on. It's good to see everybody, by the way, all the board members, Mrs. Whitaker, Mr. Siglin. I'm sure they can attest as well to the efforts of all of our teachers. Like I said, it's been pretty good feedback for the most part, despite, you're going to have issues with connectivity, this and that. But I like the feedback from the students. Administration has been very supportive from everything I've heard. So I want to thank you while you're on here, Mr. Ackerman, Mrs. Whitaker, Mr. Siglin, and all up and down the line. So appreciate your support. We're going to get through this, and hopefully we can have a normal start next fall. That, cross our fingers for that, because that's the best thing that can ever happen. I think, as Dr. Sanders said, you just cannot substitute that live social interaction with our kids. We're getting through, we're getting by, we're surviving, but it's just not the same. And, if anything, I know we have general support for public ed out there. You talk to a lot of people. Yeah, we support our schools. But hopefully after all this is over, there'll be even a bigger appreciation for what gets done, because it is work. I couldn't imagine being at home if I had 2 or 3 kids under 10 years old. I don't. I have a junior in high school, thank goodness, but it's a lot of work. So hopefully, like I said, there'll be a newfound appreciation, but that's all I got. And we're going to get through this, and we'll keep soldiering on. So thank you for the time.
Thank you, Mr. Yules, and all of our teachers. It is very trying times. Now we'll move into board member comments, and we will start with Mr. Durnall.
Thank you, Mr. President. Appreciate the meeting tonight. Appreciate how you ran the meeting. Just want to wish everybody well and stay safe. Just a little bit of news here from the town. We've decided to cancel the memorial service on May the 25th, and also the 4th of July fireworks has been canceled. So something very sad, but we felt like it was something we needed to do with all the coronavirus things that are going on. So that's my update. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mrs. Jacobs.
Well, I just wanted to say, thank you so much to our students for working so hard. I know it's been difficult. It's been difficult on you, and it's been difficult on your families. But you guys are doing it. You're doing a really, really good job at doing all your work. Thank you so much to administration and teachers and all the ancillary staff, Vicki Coffey, who all of them are just working their tails off to get everything that's needed for our students. And I can't say that I appreciate you guys enough. It's just wonderful. And thank you to everyone that's donated to our corporation. We truly appreciate everything that you're doing for our students and corporation. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Mary. Yes, thank you very much. And Mr. Tucker?
Okay, I apologize. I could not hear Miss Mary there, so I didn't know. I was looking at everybody's faces trying to figure out what was going on there. So, hey, I want to thank everybody tonight, and I echo what Miss Jacobs said with all the different parts of the puzzle pieced together and all working together kind of in a short notice here. And this, I was just thinking about when Dr. Sanders was speaking, I'm looking at my screen with pictures of everybody in their homes, moving around, combing their hair, whatever. And I can't imagine what a teacher has to go through looking at 30 different space capsules and trying to figure out what's going on with these kids' lives. So thanks for everybody for the new normal. And I want to put a shout out to Rick Routon too, because I don't have no idea how this all operates, but he's making it work. And we were kind of blessed, I think, to get him hired when we did with this e-learning coming on. And also I want everybody to be thankful for what we have at RBB. So I heard Dr. McCormick speak a few weeks back, and she said 50% of the schools in Indiana don't have e-learning capacity. And that totally stunned me. So I think the RBB kids are well off, and hopefully we can reach out and help others as well. So thank you, and stay healthy.
Thank you, Mr. Tucker. I would like to start with, I want to recognize our building corporation. We talked today, we approved leases, which cover the bond payments, and we have a building corporation that is staffed by some wonderful folks. So I wanted to call them out. Jerry Cravens is as a member, as well as Kenny Williams, and Mr. Randy Wright, who was a long school board member, continues to serve the school corporation by being on the building corporation as well. So we appreciate all of their hard work. I do want to say a special thank you for Katz for being in on this so that we can still have a presence online with our meetings. And I appreciate the HT. Emily Cox is on the Zoom as well. And I really do appreciate all of what the parents and the students and our teachers and our administrators they're in here on the Zoom as well. And we just really appreciate all their hard work during these very trying times. The Healthy Meals hearing that we served 536 students, over 5,000 meals this week. It feels pretty good, I must say. It feels pretty good for that. I appreciate the work that everybody did on the new projects that we're going to be taking on, and I'm glad that we were able to keep the ball rolling on that, because when things do ease up, the best thing we can do is keep the economy going. So if we can keep our projects going and online, that will help our community out. Thanks again to all those who donated. Again, a lot of those donations were related to feeding our students, which is awesome. We really appreciate that. And also Mr. Routon as well. Rick Routon has our IT director. I did not even hear of Zoom a few weeks ago, and now we're conducting meetings by it. So I really appreciate that. And I see that we also have our councils online, Christine Bartlett. So we've had everybody here as part of this, just like any other school board meeting. We're just in different locations. So we appreciate all of you and all the hard work that you do to be part of this corporation. And you all have a wonderful evening. And with that, this meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.